This is Hannibal here from the HannibalTV.com, about to call a women's flyweight mixed martial arts fight presented by the Montreal Fight League, who have given me permission to post this fight between two girls that have gone on to become professional MMA fighters. In the long tights, we have Jade Mason Wong fighting out of Tristar. She has a 3-2 pro record, and Megan Owens is 1-0 in the pros. She's fighting out of Windsor, Ontario. Owens is ranked 13th right now in Canada for pound women's fighter, and Wong is ranked 7. As the referee breaks up the action here, this is Montreal Fight League. These fights take place on an Indian reservation, as I'm not sure if there is amateur MMA sanctioned in Quebec at this time, or Ontario for that matter, so most of these fighters need to go to Indian reservations to get experience here. As we see, both of them seem to be strikers so far. I haven't really noticed any takedown attempts. And you'll have to apologize, I am not normally an MMA commentator, as we look at these girls trying to land the big shots there. And we may have landed a jab at one point by Jade Mason Wong. They're both very fast strikes and blocks. Oh, there's your first takedown attempt, single leg attempt by Megan Owens, but Jade Mason Wong pulls out of it. Very intense girls here. They got a lot on the line in this fight. Big crowd here tonight on the Indian reservation, as you can see. Packed house. I've attended a couple MFL events, and they always have good crowds on hand. It's the only way to see amateur MMA if you live in the Montreal or Ottawa areas right now in Canada. And actually, there's no way to see any MMA right now due to the lockdowns. The last MFL event that was supposed to take place in March actually unfortunately got canceled due to this virus situation, as we see a double leg attempt by Megan Owens here, followed by some knees. So definitely more of a wrestler, Megan Owens, so far from what I've seen. I haven't seen Wong attempt any takedowns so far. The MFL was in talks with the CFL about doing some cross promotion, but unfortunately it doesn't appear like there's going to be a CFL league this year either, as the referee has called for a break there. I'm not sure why. Girls are squaring off again. Lots of movement in this fight. Not a lot of big shots connecting though. Wong tried for a head kick there. One thing about these MFL shows, as we see a single leg, Wong's defense is excellent for these takedowns. She almost got behind on that single leg, but not quite. But yeah, the one thing about MFL, as I was saying, is I believe children are free to attend these events, which is something that is definitely rare for MMA events. This cage that they use in MFL, we have actually used for our professional wrestling league, Great North Wrestling, on 2 different occasions where we've done some special events where we've had wrestling in an MMA cage. Looked like that kick may have landed or just grazed the chin, and now Wong is becoming more and more aggressive. Megan Owens ties her up, is getting Wong against the cage. I don't think she liked those shots that connected there. But she got a little bit of a break. She seems to be recovered. Excellent movement on these two girls. Very aggressive fighters. Of course, a lot of fighters in the MFL fight out of Tristar, like Wong, which of course was the training grounds for George St. Pierre, Rory McDonald, Alex Garcia, and many other UFC fighters over the years, as well as some great amateur wrestlers. I actually trained at Tristar with their amateur wrestling program quite a lot in 2014, where they have multi-time Olympian Doug Yeats as a coach, as we see another single leg attempt. So far, I think we've seen 4 or 5 takedown attempts as we are about to finish out the round here, but Megan Owens hasn't been able to successfully finish any of those takedowns, unfortunately for her. Just a few seconds left in the round, and some big shots being thrown as we see the beautiful Sabrina Leduc holding up the card for round 2. And these girls are going right back at it. We're seeing kicks, punches thrown. No major punches I've seen land, though, so far in the round. But definitely a lot of action compared to some of the men. There's always about 20 fights on these events, and I find that from the women's fights I've seen in MFL, they probably have a higher percentage of aggressive women's fights than aggressive men's fights. We'll see if Megan Owens goes for another takedown in this round. Jade Mason Wong repositioning her mouthpiece a couple times there. She has Owens against the fence now, but Owens is circling out of it. She seems to like, she hasn't been trying to get away from having her back to the fence too much, which I don't know if I'd like to have my back to the fence or not. But I've never fought MMA. I've had 3 kickboxing fights and lots of amateur wrestling matches and grappling matches over the years. But I don't think it'd be my strategy to have my back to the cage so much. The girls are slowing down a bit. They started off the round very heavy. Another takedown attempt. That's, I think, probably the 6th takedown attempt in this fight, and probably the weakest one so far. There's lots of little punches and kicks landing. No heavy hands, but those jabs and those push kicks are going to take their toll as we get deeper into this contest. So far, at this point in the fight, it appears Jade Mason Wong has definitely been in control of the fight, even though she hasn't gone for any takedowns or anything. She's definitely seems to have controlled the pace of the fight. I noticed that Wong is playing with her mouth guard a lot. I don't know what that is. I can only assume maybe it doesn't fit her very well. There she goes again, rubbing it. As we go into the 3rd round, that is ring card girl Vanessa. They definitely have UFC quality ring card girls at the MFL. They're worth the price of admission alone. And I have an interview with those two beauties right here on the Hannibal TV. If you look up my interview with Vanessa and Sabrina, two really great girls. I actually believe that Vanessa goes out with a rap artist. A lot of low kicks. No one's been in serious danger in this fight yet. These girls are pretty evenly matched. But as I mentioned before, it seems like Megan has been on the defense most of this contest. But she's definitely not out of it. Some more shots, and of course Megan tying her up. Megan is very good at, double, almost a single leg there. Almost a single leg, but Megan got out of it. It would be interesting to see what would happen if this fight went to the ground. I don't know which of these two ladies are more competent at ground fighting. Just because she's been more aggressive attempting takedowns, I'd assume it might be Megan, but I think Jade is the more experienced of the two. I did mention their pro records earlier. Those were pro records since this fight. This fight is a couple years old, but it goes to show you that MFL is a breeding ground for pro fighters. Wong is still keeping Megan against the cage. We're getting towards the last part of the third round here. I think if Megan wants to take this fight, she's going to have to either go for a knockout or really try to really commit to one of those takedowns. As we see an exchange there. Because so far, in my opinion, Wong is ahead on points. Not that I'm an expert or a judge or anything, but it seems like she's had more landed shots and she's been more on the offense. Referee breaking them up. Not sure why. There's been a few breaks in this fight that I haven't quite understood the reason. Megan again, she really likes to fight with her back towards the cage. I haven't seen much. Oh, here she goes. Finally, she's moving forward a bit. Finally, she has the center of the cage. Almost attempted a Superman punch there. Didn't seem like she fully committed to it. If I were Megan right now, she seems to have some takedown ability. I would try for a couple takedowns, because I believe that Wong seems to have the superior stand-up here. And at this point in the fight, Megan's got to make some type of move to get in more control of it. Here we go. Maybe she heard me. She's going for another single leg here, but she didn't quite get her hands on it, but she does have Wong up against the cage now, but Wong got out of it. Nice attempt at a takedown, though. Excellent defense by Jade Mason Wong in this fight so far for those takedowns. I believe she is the more experienced fighter, and it's showing in this contest as we see, I believe, some connections there. Of course, Montreal Fight League is on Facebook. The Hannibal TV is also on Facebook. We're also on Instagram and Twitter at The Hannibal TV. I do a lot of MMA interviews. I just interviewed Pat Milicic this week. I've interviewed Tank Abbott, Dan Severn, Tito Ortiz, many of the top stars of the MMA world, and of course we also cover wrestling. Pat Miletich, I should say, who is a UFC Hall of Famer. Forrest Griffin, Stephan Bonner, interviewed them as well. Roy Nelson. We're getting to the end of the third round here. This is only a 3-round fight. But I encourage all of you to check out my MMA interviews here on the Hannibal TV, and I encourage you all to support the Montreal Fight League when they get back up and running. I know a lot of the fighters and people involved with this league since I discovered it, and I like them. And these girls aren't getting paid, and they're going hard here. So you got to respect that. That's the end of the fight. We're going to get the official word. This was the Flyweight Montreal Fight League Championship fight. And your winner, Jade Mason Wong.
Thank you for watching the Hannibal TV. Please like this video if you enjoyed it, and click the subscribe button to not miss any of our latest shoot interviews, match videos, or news updates. Support us on patreon.com for $1.99 a month to watch our full shoot interviews ad-free and help our channel grow. Follow us on Twitter at the Hannibal TV for instant updates.